Today we're going to talk about dismissive avoidant. I am a former dismissive avoidant, and as a therapist I had no other choice than to do the work and work at being more secure. And in this video, whether you're dating someone who's avoidant or maybe you're thinking you have an avoidant attachment style, I will detail very briefly the characteristics and what you need to do to be more secure. Jingle.
igetmyexback.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Avoidant attachment style is often referred as dismissive avoidant, and I love this denomination. I wished I came with this denomination because it's really spot on. First element of someone who's dismissive avoidant is this idea that they value independence. It's really about self-reliance. I can do things on my own. I don't need anyone in my life if I have a problem, if I'm sort of facing a challenge. And so that's why sometimes they seem distant in a relationship. They don't feel the need to connect whenever they feel down, for example. And so they are avoiding. Another element is dismissing, and it's really about emotions. And we discuss how the root cause of being avoidant, but it's the idea that they have a really difficult time at expressing emotion. And even though understanding emotion, if I look at my personal case, for a very long time I didn't know what it meant. What emotions, the range of emotions for me was like happy, sad, and that's it. And so it was very hard for me to connect with people who were sad, who were crying, who were grieving, and I had to learn really and sort of really study this to understand the range of emotion. And now as a therapist, obviously, I'm more able to understand people. It's different than empathy because I've always been empathetic, but it's more of like really feeling those emotions. When you are dismissive avoidant, you have a tendency to dismiss those emotions, and you feel, in a way, extremely strong because as you dismiss those emotions, in a way, nothing can impact you, negative or positive, and therefore you're rocked. Therefore, you have a poker face when you are facing a challenge. Problem is that when you try to build a relationship with someone who has a secure attachment style or who is leaning towards avoidant, then it becomes very difficult to create non-superficial interaction, to create intimacy. And that's a problem with being an avoidant attachment style, is that it's the lack of awareness and the fear of building intimacy. So the roots of the style from childhood is when those emotional needs have been overlooked or weren't met. For instance, you don't have to have had a traumatic childhood. My parents were amazing, loving parents, but they were very busy. And so for me, I had to construct myself in a way of, because my parents are not available, I need to do things on my own. And this is how I responded to their lack of availability. And also, perhaps because, no, I don't think it's because I was a boy, but very often there's this idea of, boys don't cry, and so for me, I think it's more about like maybe I wasn't necessarily heard, I didn't feel understood, and so at some stage you start to realize, hold on, I can't get anything from those adults, so I'll have to rely on myself. I'll have to self-regulate, I have to self-soothe, and that's the ability people with an avoidant attachment style develop, which feels like a superpower up until a point where you realize that actually soothing with someone is what we are hardwired to do. We are hardwired to be attached to a primary attachment figure, and it does make sense, right? In any species, the whole point of a species is to survive and have kids and sort of spread your DNA in the world. So the impact on relationship is obviously, as I discussed, the challenge with emotional intimacy and also expressing needs. Because the thing is, in a way, avoidant people have a tendency to feel that I don't have any needs. I'm easygoing. You might hear perhaps your partner is telling you things like, I don't need anything. I'm very easygoing. And so it's very hard to connect with someone who has needs, and we all have needs. But the problem is that they don't recognize that they have those needs, right? Because again, their default position is I'm an island, The rest of the world is foreign. The rest of the world is something that I don't need. So that's why they have a preference for solitude, and they sort of really value self-reliance. If I have a problem, my default way of dealing with the problem, and still to this day, is to find a solution myself. For someone who's avoidant or secure, when they have a problem, for someone secure, maybe they'll be able to navigate on those. For someone who's anxious, it's more like, I have a problem, I don't think I can solve that problem because I'm not good enough, so I'm going to check, I'm going to ask people. And so depending on things, depending on the cases, you'll be better fixing the problem yourself or finding someone. So now I'm learning every single day to ask for help, for instance, when I'm struggling with something. So the personal growth strategy, because I'm making those videos for people to learn, for people to grow, for people to be more secure and have a happier and more fulfilling life. So obviously there's therapy, introspection, and really recognize. And I think that's the work I'm doing right now. Probably do something next year. I will keep you posted about realizing that this ability to self-soothe, this ability to keep everyone at a distance is not healthy. And it will prevent you from having successful relationship, meaningful relationship. You can't be with someone, you can't have a family if you can't connect with that person and have an intimacy with that person. I'm not only talking about sex, but emotional intimacy, and same with your kids. If you can't relate to them, if you can't soothe them, you're going to have a hard time being a good parent. So it's very important to recognize, analyze, reflect, try to rewire your brain a little bit. What we do in therapy is we sort of analyze the internal working models and try to change them, try to update them and align them with something that would be more secure. If you want to know what is your attachment style, if you have any question about attachment style, there's a quiz in the description where you'll discover your attachment style, and depending on your style you'll get directed to tons of free resources to help you sort of in that reflection, in that introspection. I'm making this video to help you be aware, giving you some tips and insights, and now what I'm doing right now is just like having an additional layer of document of resources for you to really learn and grow. So the personal growth strategy, another one is focusing on expressing emotions. So it's something that took me years with my therapist, is to really try to express, to understand. And I would challenge myself every single day, like, I need to tell my wife how I feel. I need to tell my wife whenever I feel upset, to tell her rather than keeping it to myself. And obviously you can use non-violent communication principles if you want to communicate those needs with your spouse, with your friends. And very often, because I found myself, which is very sometimes counterintuitive, in the position of a people pleaser, because I didn't want to express my needs, I didn't want to annoy people, I would always go with the flow. Which is because sometimes people feel that avoidant people or anxious people are people pleaser, but you could also be avoidant and people pleaser because you don't want to express your need. Another element, obviously, which is very much what everybody does right now, is mindfulness, meditation, because it's really helping you to pause, reflect, and bring some distance on your thought process. Inner child work is also extremely important, and that's what we do with my clients who have an insecure attachment style. It's really about this inner child work. It's the purpose of this video is not about that. I will launch a program next year. If you're interested, let me know in the comment section. I will add you to the waiting list. Few development goals is how you can cultivate healthier connection and understand your emotional needs. You are a human being. If you are avoidant, if you feel that you're an avoidant person, you have emotional needs. And having emotional needs is not being weak. Being vulnerable is not being weak. It's called being human, and you have to accept it. And so the person you're dating, the person you're in a relationship with, who's secure or anxious, is not weak, is not too emotional. They're human, right? And so the pain they are having, the emotions that they're having is not a reflection of their weakness or their lack of strength. It's just a reflection of their humanity. And you have to understand that. So very often, for a while, I thought it was great to act as like a robot, right? I used to play poker a lot, and I was like, yeah, it's really cool because I can manage my emotion, etc. First, obviously, when you try to build sustainable and intimate relationship, that's not really how it works. And B, I thought I was a robot, but in a way, analyzing this, by dismissing those emotions, I would have other coping mechanisms that are not healthy. For instance, like procrastination could be something where you don't necessarily understand what's going on and you try to distract yourself. And so by distracting yourself, yes, you don't have the problem, you're not facing the problem, but you're doing something else, which prevents you from doing what you really want. So it's really about, the goal is really about, finding the right balance between independence, emotional connection. Having a secure attachment style is knowing how to have healthy boundaries, knowing how to come and go. Very often we look at, and the work of Bowlby is really the foundation of that, the relationship with kids and parents. When you raise a kid, you have to raise them to be autonomous while providing support. And so when you're in the park with the child, you don't want to be neither the helicopter parent who's always on their back, don't allow them to explore, to take risk, nor, which is the other extreme, which will create avoidant people, is to let them go wherever they are. And if they are crying, if they are distressed, if they feel they're lost, they're going to have a hard time trying to find where their parents are. So these two extremes are how you build, how avoidant versus anxious people. Helicopter parenting is what would create anxious kids. The sort of, I don't want to take care of you because I'm busy on my phone or I'm busy having drinks with my friend. That's more of the avoidant attachment style. If you have any other question, if you want anything, let me know in the comment section. Have a look in the description. I put together tons of resources and free materials for you to learn, for you to grow, for you to be more secure, to basically, advance in your journey. Take care. Bye-bye.